Hey everyone, it's Ellis, and this is the patch 13.15 notes rundown, obviously here on the main channel. As back on the main channel, we will resume all of the patch previews, this is the patch previews. They'll be here on the main channel, and then the actual rundowns will be on the FlyQuest channel. So, Caitlyn, so let's take a look at all the buffs. Now, 13.15 is a bit of a sad patch in that it has no meaning. There's no region that plays playoffs on this patch unless LEC championship series ends up playing on 13.15. Otherwise, there's no purpose to 13.15, and I don't know what they're going to do for Asia Games. So this is just solo queue. There's no competitive effect, and I think even for 13.16, 13.17, and then I think 13.18 is Worlds. So we're in for a bad summer, but there's a lot of boot campers here in Korea, and so that is where the content is. So Caitlyn, passive crit chance ratio 1.2 to 1.3. Our crit ratio is 2.5 per 10% to 3.5 per 10%. Okay, so she just gets a 10%. She gets a 10% bonus buff when she's at completely full build. Otherwise, she's getting some bonus, sure, in early game and mid game, a very negligible amount. Right, you're literally looking at like what, a 4% increase most likely in early mid game, and then passive crit chance ratio 1.2 to 1.3. Okay, Camille, AD growth is going to be 0.3 per level, which is omega negligible, and then R on hit base damage 5, 10, 15 to 20, 30, 40. What? What? Hextech Ultimatum. While within the zone, Camille's basic attack deal bonus magic inhibit. Why did you just give Camille an extra, like, what? Why did she just... What? Wait, what? Wait, why did they just steroid Camille when she casts her R? Now, her R isn't the primary thing of her kit, but oh my god, they just gave her so much more damage. That doesn't make any sense, man. That makes no sense. They just gave her R such a steroid. Okay, it's for Drew 2 when he boot camps in Korea. Okay, Gwen, HP regen 8.5 to 9, and then W resists are going to go up by 5. So, okay, so Gwen's a little bit tankier, and she has a little bit more HP in laning phase. It does not really matter. Gwen is still going to be picked for the same exact reasons that you pick Gwen. In solo queue, you shouldn't be playing Gwen, because the game just moves a little bit too fast. Nami, Q damage, 75 to 295 to 90 to 310. So they give Nami 15 flat damage, and then passive MS, 90 to 100, AP ratio 20%. AP ratio 20% to 25%. None of this stuff really matters. It doesn't resurrect Lucian Nami, so it doesn't change anything because Nami is only picked with Lucian. Talia, Q damage 45 to 125, 50 to 130, E cooldown 18 to 14 to 16 to 14, E damage to monsters 150 to 175. Okay, so Talia jungle is probably able to come back. I would assume. That Talia jungle is able to actually come back. The Q base damage in lane is really good for like mid beast. Amazing. Obviously the most handsome fellow currently on the Korean solo queue ladder, tearing it up with his Talia, and so it's a nice buff for mid beast. Yasuo shield 125 to 600 plus 30 at level 3, 75 at 6, 125 at 9, 79 at 16. So the shield isn't super big except for when you cast R. Yeah, the shield when you cast R is like where the value comes in. So they are giving him some HP in team fights, because obviously that's where you chew through the majority of the shield. In laning phase, generally, he just gets auto-attacked and then he loses his shield and then nothing happens, right? You're not really chewing through the shield. Yone W shield 45 to 65, 55 to 75. This is a shield that actually does get chewed through, so getting a flat 10 on it is like, okay. Yeah, it's okay. This is a shield that actually does get chewed through. So Yone probably gains like half an auto to an auto attack worth of extra HP in laning phase. Okay, Aatrox, QAD ratio 60 to 100% to 60 to 90%. He's still buffed. He got 20% as his buff, and now they're trimming it down by 10%. So Aatrox is probably the strongest top laner like on this patch, 13, 14 or something, to just be picked like blind and solo queue, and then obviously you can actually flex some mid against some of the champions. So in that regard, I think Aatrox was fine, and this is obviously for elite play. The nerf is okay. We're going to look at IVERN in just a second. They say they mostly focus on moving off Night Harvester and on to Enchanter. This is totally fine. Night Harvester shouldn't have been being built anyway, to be totally honest with you. If you wanted to build any of the AP items, then I think that what you do is... you probably end up... Well, you do lose access to Zombie Ward Relentless, but what you could do is you could do Luden and go Ingenious Hunter because of Daisy's interaction with Ingenious Hunter. You'd get lots of Luden procs, and then you'd get the MS constantly, and then you're objectively dealing more damage, and then the MS is not super important, or the ability haste difference between Luden and Night Harvester is not super important. Obviously, the HP from IVERN, not super important. Okay, Kai'Sa, base HP is going to be down by 30, so she's losing an auto attack. Q damage per missile, 40 to 100 plus 50% bonus AD, 30% AP, to 40 to 100 plus 50% bonus AD, 20% AP. So when Kai'Sa builds full AP, typically, depending on her build, she will have Luden Nashers, and then the adaptive will take over. So what? At that point, she'll have what, 199 AP? So she'll have 199 AP. So if you lose 10% of that, Q damage per missile, you know, I mean, I guess, right? You lose 19 damage there, but I mean, that's on our Q, man. Like, I don't think that's gonna matter. W cooldown reduction after evolution, 77 to 75%. Now, I saw a lot of people on Twitter that did not understand what this nerf actually did because they don't understand AP Kai'Sa in the first place. So what this nerf does is you basically can't cast WW now at max range. So let me pull up some fun images for you. On Kai'Sa. Okay. So, all right, here we go. So we're pulling up a bunch of images on Kai'Sa. So when you end up doing various things, so like here, there's no Gwynsu's, etc. So this is no haste. This is basically no haste. You just have You just have Nashers, etc. This is the proximity that you have to be at. Yeah, this is the proximity that you have to be at in order to WW, and this is without Gwynsu's and it's without Ludens in order to do the WW. Now, when you start to get haste, so this is the equivalency of having blue buff. When you start to get haste, this is where I believe this is the absolute range of, what is this? So this is the absolute limit of 30 total haste. Nasher level 11 blue buff. It gives 15 haste from level 11 to 15. So this is the absolute limit. So you still have to be on screen in order to WW. Now this is without the nerf, okay? This is without the 2%. So the 2% is going to go away, which means that Kai'Sa is actually going to have to be even closer. Now this is assuming that you have Gwynsu's and that you have blue buff. Now when you end up, when you end up having Ludens and stuff, this is the distance that you're allowed to be at. When you end up having Gwynsu's, this is obviously way further. Or sorry, this is when you have Ludens. This is how much further away you're allowed to be. This is a very, very, very big difference in terms of how far you can obviously be from the thing. Now the thing about it is it's a very thin window. It's extremely, extremely thin to be able to WW. Now, the WWing and stuff is really important for the damage because I can show you guys Liandry versus Ludens. Now, Liandry is going to become the only viable option after this nerf because it's going to be way too thin to proc WW, so Liandry is going to become the only option after this nerf. Now, the difference on Luden versus Liandry for like some of Kai'Sa's other things, like Nashers on hits, and then obviously Kai'Sa's Q and her passive, there is going to be some damage loss. But the reality is if you've been watching pro play with me for the last 2 months, you've been counting the auto attacks to W casts that Kai'Sa does, even when she goes Gwynsu's and stuff like that, you would know that it is a disgusting, typically 5-to-1 ratio on average. W versus auto attack casts, even when she's going Gwynsu's in competitive games, because this is just the way that Kai'Sa should end up playing. So sometimes it's a little bit less than that. Sometimes it's like 4.5 or like 4-to-1 or something like that, depending on game. But generally, what's going to happen after this nerf is Kai'Sa is just going to go Liandry's. And if you're not going Liandry's, you still go Ludens, you're griefing, because Liandry's will be immune to this change. And what that's going to end up doing is probably in 13-16, Riot are going to reduce the W even further because they haven't already thought about Liandry's being an option yet, because it's not the item that's being pushed anywhere. So in that regard, the Kai'Sa changes, they do nerf her. They make it a lot worse now to go Guinsoo's, and now you have to go Liandry's. But if you do go Liandry's, then you're going to be fine. Maokai, Q bonus monster damage 100 to 180 to 80 to 160, slows down his clear, really does hurt him, especially, and also punishes him harder if he does go Demonic Embrace. And if the enemy has like tank jungle that has like Warmogs or enchanters and stuff, things just get worse. Okay. Sejuani, W total magic damage 50 to 230, 230 to 210. Doesn't really matter. AD per level 3.4 to 3. HP per level 109 to 104. So they're nerfing top Shyvana. That is what this is. This is not jungle Shyvana. This is definitely top Shyvana. Champion adjustments. Timber stats armor 30, 60, 90 plus 5% to 30 to 90. Armor MR per level 6 to 18. Health 13 to 3100 plus 75 to 1150 to 3500. So Tibbers is actually tankier. Well, actually, no. Tibbers is not tankier later. Most likely. Well, I mean, in some instances, right? Some instances, Tibbers will be. Okay. And then Heimerdinger gets his turrets, have a little bit more, and now Maiden, 2.5 HP health regen per second. This is really good for letting Maiden split push. This is really, really, really good. And then also, yeah, I mean, the 2.5 HP health regen per second is really good for Yorick and lane. And now, in addition to that, Maiden has armor and MR. Now, you guys might think, well, this doesn't really matter that much. You'd be wrong. The reason that this matters as much as it does is because if you had any lifesteal abilities, if you had anything, like in your kit, you had Vampiric Scepter, if you hit Maiden, it's insane. You just get so much HP from lifestealing off of Maiden. But now because Maiden is going to have armor and MR, she's going to be a lot tankier in most cases. So 75% of Yorick's max HP to... Now, it doesn't actually say if Maiden still contains 75% of Yorick's max HP. I would hope that it still contains that, but it doesn't say it in the image. Because otherwise, actually, Maiden, I would say maybe is nerfed. Maybe Maiden's nerfed? Even with 50 armor MR at max rank, losing 1400 HP plus 75% of Yorick's max HP, which is going to be like another 1800, like, that doesn't seem right. Okay, system nerfs. Glacial Augment, Zone Slow, 30%, plus 3, etc. to 20%. This doesn't really matter. Night Harvester now only triggers on auto attacks. Direct spells and pets no longer... Oh, direct spells! Wow, Night Harvester just got gutted. Unless I'm misunderstanding that. Wow, they just... Wait. So direct, I feel like means like manual click, right? It means focus click. I would assume, right? So I mean, LeBlanc's gonna be fine because everyone still builds it because they don't actually fucking pay attention to what their champion's doing. But for the most part, I think this is a really big nerf to a lot of champions. Well, I mean, I'm happy, right? I'm really happy because this item just should never be getting built except on like Vladimir. But yeah, Smite on non-champions, 600. Okay, so now let's move to the IVERN change because this is a really big one. Now, I did see that there were some IVERN mains that were freaking out about this. I don't think it's anything to freak out about. Base MR reduced from 32 to 30. MR growth reduced from 2.05 to 1.3. Okay, so IVERN's a lot more vulnerable now to magic damage. That's fine, because IVERN's already disgusting against magic damage. WLI base damage increased from 5 to 15 to 10 to 30. Now, this is really nice if people were actually utilizing IVERN's passive. E-base shield is increased from 80 to 220 to 85 to 245. So he actually just gets 25 flat. E-AP shield ratio reduced from 75% to 50%. Okay, so you lose 25% AP. So this really does suggest that you should be going Moonstone Redemption, Staff, etc. And if you do that, you are going to be getting a lot of nice benefits by doing so. Daisy duration is reduced from 60 seconds to 45 seconds. This means that Daisy does not have a million uptime in mid-late game. Daisy base health is changed from 13 to 39 rank to 1,000 to 4,400. Daisy is tankier later. Okay. Daisy's tankier later. Daisy's base resists are changed from 20 to 100 rank plus 5% AP to 30 to 90 plus 0% AP. Okay, so actually, well, maybe Daisy's like similar later, as long as you're going like Enchanter and stuff. And then what else? Daisy AD AP ratio reduced from 30% to 15% AP. This is totally fine. So if you were going Enchanter, you're not really losing anything, but you're getting a lot of value back. These are really nice IVERN buffs. These are nice. This patch feels pretty bad, so it's probably okay. Those are some heavy nerfs. The champ doesn't sell much skins. They're not allowed to be in the meta. Do not push these changes. What is wrong with these people? Meanwhile, Kai's lost 2% on her W rate friend despite her pick rate being 43% with 50% ban rate. Yeah, because it totally I can't focus. Okay, so that is it for the changes. Now, 1315 obviously does not have any competitive bearing, so it doesn't do anything here. So I would have hoped that Riot actually would have been more explosive in their patch changes because the meta sucks. Now, for competitive, it does do something. Well, it's not going to have any effect because playoffs are all played on 1314. But what we can hope now is that 1316, 1317, etc. have more impactful changes, and that way the world's patch is not fucking doomed. All right, that's it.